Hello, everyone. My name is Tim France, host of Queer Eye on Netflix, and you are listening to Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. I am just thrilled to be joined by Tan France. Tan, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been such a eventful year, certainly for you as a new parent and with all the ongoing success. But I honestly think the ultimate validation has to be having a Lego Tan France figure in your sort of likeliness and or likely likeness. Is that just the ultimate mic drop right there?
Well, here's the thing. I believe there have only been a couple of shows, Friends and Seinfeld, who have had a full Lego set done. And so to know that we're in company like that blows my mind. I can't imagine when I was playing with my Legos as a kid, I ever thought, oh, one day I'll be one of these.
Right.
That's quite a mic drop. There have been so many mic drops though over the last 3.5 years. I don't know what is the most mic droppable moment.
Sure. I mean, when I at least read that and saw that, I was like, that must be the ultimate in saying, hey, I might as well just stop. Something you're doing is going right.
Yeah, I was very, very proud. I mean, listen, no matter what happens, they can't take that away from me.
That's true.
I'm a Lego. And in my opinion, mine's the best one. And I think my castmates will agree because mine's got the very obvious tan France hair.
Yes.
So yeah, I honestly, I couldn't be prouder.
I think that's a victory for sure.
Thanks.
Let me ask you this: as a parent, and particularly a parent to a new 2 to 3 month old, I would always, as a doctor, factor in that much more time to listen and learn whenever I visited with those parents because it is such a challenge. Were you prepared for this? Did you find that there was some preparation that you either could or couldn't really factor in?
I would love to convince the world that I'm a very prepared person. I am not. I am the kind of person that just thinks, oh, it'll work out. They'll figure itself out. And so that's how it was with our child. His name is Ismail, and he is just about to turn 3 months in a couple of days. And the reason why we weren't prepared, I was planning to be somewhat prepared. The nursery was going to be ready, and I was going to at least have baby bottles and diapers and all that kind of stuff ready.
Yeah.
However, my son came almost 2 months early, 7.5 weeks early. And so I don't think anyone is expecting their child to be that early. And so we were not anywhere near prepared as prepared as we should have been. But even if we were prepared, the things that those components really don't prepare a person necessarily. Yes, they may ease your stress by having diapers and wipes and all those things ready, but it's the mental state that one is in, the lack of sleep that you can't prepare someone for. So, in answer to your question, no, we weren't physically prepared as far as things. We also were not physically prepared or mentally prepared for a baby. I don't think it's
Yeah, if we could find 4 extra hours of sleep every day, that would probably help us prepare, at that phase for sure. Has Ismail started to smile and do a little bit of that with you?
Yes. Oh, it's only first thing in the morning, and it reinvigorates me each day to remind me that, okay, there is someone behind those eyes, and that is a very special thing. I mean, to be fair though, he cries a lot. It doesn't bother me that much. I'm just obsessed with him. I've wanted him for 20 years now, and so I think that when he cries and the things that many parents would be frustrated by, I let it go because I just think I've wanted you for so long and I've prayed for you for so long, and so I'm not about to bite the hand that fed me.
Did you have any surprise learnings about yourself so far in these past 2 to 3 months where you've said, gosh, boy, this is really something I'm realizing about myself that I just never knew?
Well, first thing, most importantly, is I can function on way less sleep than I ever imagined. Before having Ismail, I needed minimum 8 hours. Anyone who's ever worked with me knows if I don't have 8 hours, I'm just not the TV temperance that people know.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy. I'm always friendly. I'm always smiley, but I can't put in the performance that I would with 8 hours. Now I'm now I'm showing that I can do it on 3 or 4. However, about 2 weeks ago, we had what we call in England a night nurse. Here, I forgot what they call it. Um, but that's somebody that watches our baby from 10:30 till 7.
Yeah.
And that has helped massively, game changer for us. And I know I'm in a very privileged position, but we can't avoid the fact that I'm in a privileged position. I'm not going to apologize for the fact that I have my job and my finances, therefore I can hire help. And I also accept that I don't have what my family had. I come from a really, really Pakistani family where everyone lives within 5 minutes of each other. You've always got help. We truly believe in it takes a village. I don't have that. We don't have any family around.
Yeah. Well, do you find that it's giving you a little more licensure to seek and sort of access the help?
Yeah. So I do this like weekly journal, online journal. I missed it this week, but I'm going to do it today. Where I talk about my weird guilt about hired help, having to hire help to help raise our child, because it's so not the Asian. It's not my version of the Asian way.
Right.
Nobody in my entire extended family, and there's over 150 of us in England, none of us have ever had a nanny. None of us have ever had outside help. And so there's a lot of guilt that comes along with that. However, every time one of my cousins, I'm very close to my family.
Yeah.
I speak to them really regularly. And I'm on a group text with many of them, many of my cousins.
Sure.
And they've all started making fun over the last few weeks, saying, "Whoa, we thought you hadn't changed, but clearly you have because you've got a nanny." And I throw it right back saying, you have no idea what this life is like. I don't have access to family and friends like you did when you had your children. When my siblings all had their children, they all stayed with my mum for 40 days minimum.
Right. Yeah.
That's typical in our culture. And we didn't have that. We were just thrown into the deep end.
Well, it's almost like you have to create that village around you in some ways, and you find it definitely at this phase with the parade of strollers that are always parked, and you get some camaraderie in that way with other parents, I think.
Yeah, I have noticed that there's been a greater connection with people than I've ever had because of my baby, and it's usually with fellow parents.
Yeah. You posted a photo recently of you holding your son's hand, which was with a quote that I absolutely love from Brandy Carlisle. And the quote was, "Welcome to the end of being alone inside your mind."
Yeah.
And I wonder if you can reflect on that a little bit about how that sort of resonated for you, both being a parent or even a spouse, or even your own memories of youth within the context of you growing up.
Let me start this by saying Brandy's a very good friend of mine, and she sang it to me and my husband this past weekend on stage by my request, and it was one of the most beautiful moments, and I will never ever forget it for the rest of my life. And that opener of the song, the lyric, I think is so beautiful because it really does articulate what I wouldn't have been able to articulate myself. I've loved my husband for 14 years. He was the most important and is one of the most important things in my life now, and was the most important thing in my life up until 3 months ago. And I thought, okay, no, I really am tethered to this other person for the rest of my life. However, having a baby is a very different kind of bond. And it's strange. I apologized to my husband a couple of days after I met my baby. I didn't meet my baby for the first 2 days. I couldn't get back to America in time. I missed the birth. And as soon as I saw him and held him, I said to him, "I can't believe that you've become my favorite person." And it's all consuming. And I turned to my husband and I said, "I'm so sorry. I will always love you. This person right here will have my heart till my dying day. And if God forbid anything were to ever happen to him, I don't know how to recover from this." And that is also how I feel about my husband, but it's very different. I've never felt so vulnerable, so emotional as I do right now. And it makes me, actually, the funny thing that it did was it made me think of how shitty I am with my mom. Yeah, yeah. I have a wonderful relationship with my mom. In my opinion, I'm a good child.
Of course, right.
So I'm now middle-aged. I call her every week. I take really good care of her as best I can, which is not necessarily for a youngest child in the Pakistani culture. It's the eldest son who's
Yeah.
meant to take care of the parent, but I also do. Whenever I'm home, I cook with her. I help her as much as possible around the house. Even now, which people find funny on my social, the first thing I do when I get home to my mom's house is I make roti and salad with my mom.
Yeah.
Even after a 14-hour flight back home, it's just what we do together. And now I just think, gosh, if my son called me once a week, all hell will break loose. There is
Right.
no way that that's okay, that he would call me once a week for 10 minutes to make sure I'm okay. I wanna know that I am as important to you as you are to me. So yeah, that's how it's affected me as far as my childhood goes. And I just think, how were you difficult sometimes when this person did everything they could to raise you?
In that context, because it reframes your sense of vulnerability and your connection and your the idea of what kind of emotional tie you have to another human being. Has this reframing in some ways, has it at all reframed any of your thinking about your professional work, about fashion, about style, about comfort, about even the attitude or the confidence that's required to share or present a version of it?
You know how it's changed my professional life is it's not so much about style of fashion, quite honestly. It's about what I will take on and what I won't take on now. Um, Up until 3 months ago, if I wanted to do a job, I'd do a job. If it and it usually requires travel. My primary residence is Salt Lake City, Utah. There's nothing entertainmenty about Utah, and so I usually have to fly to New York, London, or LA. And I would do that at the drop of a hat, no big deal. If I got a call on a Monday saying I've got to be in New York on a Tuesday, yes, fine, of course I can be there. I've become a lot more comfortable saying no to almost everything because I just want to be able to focus on my son. So when it comes to my professional life, the only way it really has affected it
Mm.
is by prioritizing how I give up my time with my child and my husband. Before I would just drag Rob, my husband, along with me wherever I go, and he was always happy to come along. But now that's not possible. We don't want to ruin what we've built up with our routine with our child. And so that's a component that has changed my professional life the most. When it comes to what I do with fashion and style, with regard to confidence, that's a constant for me. It's always been something that I've been very passionate about and very vocal about. It's not just putting clothes on somebody to pretty them up or beautify them. It's to change the way they view themselves to bolster their self-esteem, and that never went away. And I use it just as much now as I did before. When the first couple of weeks after having Ismail, I wouldn't make as much of an effort, and I'd feel pretty low. And then I started putting clothes on again that I liked, and I just feel better about myself. And that's definitely something that I'm going to encourage in Ismail when he gets older.
To the fashion and style naive like myself, so much is this perception of empowerment through that same confidence and self-esteem and comfort that you talk about, especially with who you are and how you carry sort of the external dressings or presentation. I've always wondered this, that does that ever come at a cost to being empathic, where your focus is really on yourself so much? Do you ever risk losing your sense of empathy to the world around you or to others around you? And I'm just curious, as someone who's sort of a guru in this, whether how you feel about that.
Wait, could you articulate? So, could you reframe that question for me?
It's like, if you have a sense of style and
Yeah.
you are really your self-esteem is off the charts, and you have developed a sense of an air of confidence and comfort in with who you are,
Yeah.
do you ever risk losing empathy
Oh,
towards others?
in my opinion, no. Because I use style to encourage my self-esteem. If I was just naturally the most confident person, I wouldn't need anything to achieve that. I use clothes very resolutely, and so I definitely don't feel like it, it hinders my empathy when it comes to other people. Actually, when I, especially on the show that I'm most known for, which is Queer Eye,
Yeah.
I think it helps me really understand what their perspective is, because I felt like that. I felt like many of them have felt in the past. I mean, I made it very clear on season 1 of Queer Eye. The reason why I became so involved with style is because my partner dumped me because his verbatim, he said, "You've let yourself go," and that really did something to me. And
Yeah.
so now, when every time I get dressed up, I know what it does to me, and therefore I know what it could do to somebody else. It doesn't make me less empathetic. I think it makes me more empathetic.
As doctors and in the medical profession, we have to be, we're trained and we're proud to be agnostic to who we interact with, interface with. Does because of that, sense of self-awareness and that balance of empathy, does it help you to, in some ways, kind of be interactive with just about anyone? That it doesn't matter what their level of style or fashion is.
Absolutely. Almost everybody that we help on Queer Eye has, almost everyone has a base level of what they like when it comes to style, or what they understand when it comes to style and fashion. And so I find I find that no more difficult, no more challenging than I would if somebody had a wardrobe that they really care about and they just wanted to have it reinvigorated. And so, no, I don't think it matters either way. I start from the same place with everybody. Tell me who you are, tell me how you want to feel, and we'll figure it out. And I would like to believe that after all these years on Queer, after all these seasons, people have started to realize that so often I'll put people in something that you would never see me in. I have no interest in wearing those things. But it's not about what I want to wear. It's what they want to communicate to the world by what they're putting on their bodies, which is why there's so many people in fashion, I think, uh, do not like me, and they don't like what I do because I'm the anti-fashion guy. I'm saying care more about how you feel in your clothes, not so much how much you spent on what that label says on the inside of that piece of clothing. Who cares about a trend? Who cares what Vogue says is hot this season? If it doesn't make you feel good, don't wear that. I'm not trying to denigrate any of those publications or anyone in the fashion world. I love what you do, but many people can't relate. And so I really wanted to make style more relatable to the every person. And I felt excluded from the fashion world for many, many, many years. And so I want them to understand that I get it, and I want you to still feel good, even if you don't subscribe to any of those trends.
Sure. And is that the ultimate and most tangible joy? Because you see that through another person.
Yeah.
Is that hard to get when you're not necessarily thinking of fashion from someone else's eyes?
Yeah, so is it the tangible result for me, or the feeling for me? Yes, it is. Is it hard to get through other areas other than fashion? No, because what I do on the show is not. I use clothes as a vehicle to get people to open up
Yeah.
to me and disclose their deepest, darkest secrets, so I can hopefully help them feel better. And therefore, I think it's made me a great communicator. I over communicate my feelings and my experiences to hopefully encourage other people to do the same to me,
Yeah.
like me. And so I think that that puts me in a very strong position to be able to offer advice, sometimes unsolicited, uh, able to offer advice and say, I can see that this thing is hurting you or causing you problems or hindering you in some way. Let me
Yeah.
offer you this advice.
Do which brings me to this, which is that you almost have to develop this style or even this talent of being a great listener and almost counseling people in that way. Have you become a student of that in some way? It's just like how to really really listen deeply,
Yeah.
and is that the kind of learning that you're doing on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, first off, I have learned a lot from my castmates,
Yeah.
who I think we all learn a lot from each other, the way we interact with the heroes. These are people that we've literally never met before. We only hear their name that morning, and we're expected to change their lives within technically 3 days.
Yeah.
And then that's not all day, every day for 3 days. We see truly lasting results. Some of our heroes we helped 4 years ago, and they've still benefited greatly from their experience on our show. And so I learn a lot from my castmates, but I watch a lot of TV and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I listen to people who do a great job of listening and then reacting to what they're hearing. And I think it's a really important component of my job. But to be fair, I was that person to a certain extent before this, which is how I got my job. This casting process was rigorous, incredibly intense, and one of the parts was to make sure that we don't just talk about ourselves, that we listen to what this person's saying and react. Growing up in a South Asian household, we are very social people. My community is very, very sociable. We always had at least 5 or 6 people at the house, and that's on a quiet day. And so you learn, and our culture is known for being gossipy. We know what
What's
and
going on
the street is
everywhere?
doing, what I know who her son's married, like all that stuff. And so we are such sociable people that I think that we're taught to communicate well at a very young age, sometimes in a way that doesn't, that the West doesn't respond well to. I think that I've struggled with that. If I were to be honest about what I struggle with most in the West is, and on the shows that I'm on, it's communicating in a way that is appropriate for Caucasian people, Western people who aren't used to just hearing what they need to hear.
Let me ask you this then. For, if aliens landed and they're meeting all of us for the first time,
Yeah.
how would you describe to them what it's like to be a South Asian gay Muslim man in 2021?
It would be too hard to give you a soundbite of what it is to be all three, so I'm gonna have to separate them out.
Sure.
Whenever I speak, I make it very clear to everybody I'm not checking any of my personality or anything that I represent at the door. I've got nothing to hide or to be ashamed of. Um, but describing what that must be to somebody who's never experienced this is impossible. You can't conflate the three. What it is to be a queer person is somebody who's constantly having to fight for the right to be treated equally. What it is to be South Asian is to be surrounded by hopefully a community of love and support, um, and great moral grounding. What it is to be a Muslim is to have your religion and your decency in question at every turn.
When you think about those and all the other hats and identities that you carry, um, does it sometimes become such that you have to become comfortable at integrating all of them at
Yeah.
the same time?
Yeah. I mean, if one doesn't, you're kind of out the game, especially in my world.
Yeah.
You can't really ignore any of the components that make you who you are. The press is always going to pull at the thread that you don't want them to pull at, and so you just have to get comfortable with making it clear that you are all of the things that you are, and that you are comfortable in that space. And it took me a while to get there. I didn't really talk about being a Muslim for the first 2 years of where it was weird. I almost felt like I had to come out as Muslim in a more complicated way than I did coming out as a gay person. People expected that because I was on Queer Eye, and so yeah, I've it's something that is unavoidable if you're in a position like me.
You mentioned such a strong social and emotional tie to those who are in your family or in your sort of family social circles. Is there a difference in your head when someone calls you Tan versus Tanvir?
No, no. I just think if somebody called me Tanvir, they really want to understand the Asian in me. Um, But to be fair, even my mum has, I don't remember a time she's ever called me Tanvir. Nobody in my family has. My grandma, um, before she passed away, she would call me Tanvir. But other than that, I've been known as Tan, or actually my nickname in my family is not necessarily Tan for the younger generation. Anybody in my mum's or my grandparents, it was Tanno, which is Tanvir, but yeah, in a cutesy way. And it's from the movie. There's a movie. I don't know how much you're into Bollywood. I'm obsessed with Bollywood. I always was. There was a movie called Sholay, which is a classic, and
Yeah.
and Hema Malini had a horse called Tenno, and so my family started calling me Tenno.
I mean, it's almost like that sense of home, right? That we feel, and it probably doesn't matter what we wear, what we're called, how we react, but there's some intangible quality to feeling like you're at home.
Yeah.
And whether it's Tanno or Tan with others, I'm sure that those are the tethers that probably bring you comfort and solace. How do you nourish some of that same kind of feeling of home and self-awareness? Do you enjoy or prioritize the kind of moments of silence or isolation, or some would call that meditations even?
Yeah. Um, I'm not. I don't meditate. Yeah, I love that people do, and some of my classmates do, and I find it fascinating. I've got too busy a mind for that, I think. Um, And I am the kind of person that's always on the go doing something. There's a term for it in my culture called prut, which means basically you've got ants in your pants, you're always on the go. And I've been referred to as prut my entire life. Um, so no, I don't have any moments where I really kick back and reflect, other than times with my husband and my child where I'm sat at home. But even then, I'm usually listening to music or watching TV. It's very rare there's silence around me. However,
Yeah.
I want to mention that it is kind of a follow-on from my last point, which was what people call me and what makes me feel more at home. It's not necessarily the name. The things that make me feel grounded still and connected to my culture is Urdu or Hindi. Um, my family still speak our language,
Yeah.
and my first language wasn't English. And so, and now with my son, I have somebody to speak Urdu with, obviously, or Hindi. He doesn't speak it back, obviously, but I've got somebody to talk it at locally, and that's important. And our nanny, we're looking at a nanny now who will speak Hindi. So and my child understands that that's their first language also. I love my husband, but he thankfully accepts the fact that I want my child's first language to be Hindi. And so those kind of things make me feel at home.
You never know. Boy, you guys as a threesome might become the world's greatest Hindi speaking family that's out there. It's on its way.
By the way, it's important to me. It really is important.
So we speak Marathi in our house, and honestly, the kids, our rule kind of was, hey, they'll learn English on their own. We don't have to feed them that. And the victory, of course, was when our kids will sometimes fight in Marathi, and that's the ultimate. That if they can either fight or cuss in a language, that means that they're really good.
Yeah. I don't think that my children will. Hopefully, we're going to have more. I don't think they will speak Urdu or Hindi together. But it hurts my heart when I know that some of my nieces and nephews don't understand us when we're speaking the language, and that really gets me. And so I want to make sure that my children at least can understand and respond even if it's in a basic way.
Let me ask you this. I wonder if you feel that, all of this is a mechanism for storytelling, right? Your professional life, how you've actually been able to experience now the joy of being married and parenting. How has your work been a vehicle for developing trust and relationships?
My work is all about building relationships, whether it be on camera or off. If I don't build good relationships, I don't get jobs. I'm not white, and therefore it's a little harder for somebody who is a person of color, queer, brown, Muslim immigrant person of color, to get jobs. They're not lining up to give us them, and so the way I get those is by making sure that people see my value. And so I network a lot and I become friendly with these people in these networks so they can see and understand my humanity and set aside those other component parts that are necessary and significant to me, but shouldn't be wildly significant to them. And then how I build trust through my work is by making sure that I continue to work with people that I love and care for and believe are doing something good in the world, and the projects that I take on are to better or to forward or move the needle when it comes to representation of our people, my people. And so I think that's how I built trust in the audience that knows me, and that's how we'll continue to build trust. Is by making sure that I'm working on the right kind of projects with the right kind of people who really want to tell a story that feels honest and true.
I have to ask you this. So my wife and kids have said that I should grow my beard out, and I resist because it's all gray, and I'm either going to look like Santa Claus, and I'm allergic to hair dye, and blah blah blah. But what it brings it up for me, and especially what's resonant for you as a style and fashion expert who embraces acceptance. Is there a formula or a secret, if you will, to becoming self-assured in particularly our own maturation and aging and evolution? Because we're all people who change every day, and every month, every year, etc. And is there a mechanism to embrace that clearly?
I wish there, I wish there was. I maybe there is, but I haven't found it yet. Aging scares me. I'm not going to lie, aging does scare me. Um, I accepted my grays when I was a teen, and I don't remember a time before I had my gray, so that's just a given. But other things that age me, wrinkles, whatever, that scares me, and I do all I can to prevent that. I hope that I will find peace in that eventually. But for right now, I'm clinging to my youth like you would not believe.
Well, for at least the 50-year-old, I would say that, the liberation part of being able to be at peace with it is certainly there. And you're doing so much to show people how to embrace and accept the great things that they can find in themselves. Tim, thank you so much for being with us. What a treat and a pleasure.
Of course,
Really
thank you
enjoyed
so
it.
much.
So much fun.
Thank you. I appreciate your considerate questions. Thank you. Thank you.
You're listening to Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. Stay tuned.